Welcome in, everybody. I'm Aslan Hutchavandi. Just like you, I have no idea what is going on right now, but the two other guys on the screen are going to help us out with that. They're maybe the number 2 and number 3 men who care most about Florida State football, behind Mike Norvell, who apparently will remain your head football coach for the foreseeable future. Jeff Cameron, Corey Clark joining me, Aslan Hutchavandi. I'm going to get right to you, Corey. We did a podcast, I don't know, maybe 12 hours ago, where we kind of talked about this being a certainty that Mike Norvell and Florida State were going to have to part ways. Michael Alford, vice president of the university, of the athletics department, the athletics director, published a statement not even an hour ago, basically saying that they will have a comprehensive reassessment of the program at the end of the season, but remain committed to Mike Norvell and helping the Seminoles finish 2025 out the strongest way they possibly can. Your thoughts?
I'm all for it. I think everybody's excited. I think the Florida State fan base is excited about that statement today. No, that's it's stunning for a number of reasons. Number one is I just feel like the team told you on Saturday night what the comprehensive reassessment of the football program needs to be. They gave you all the ammo you need. I know you get to save a little money by him coaching out the string, but it makes it untenable. Like, what am I supposed to ask Mike Norvell about Wake Forest defense, knowing he's going to be fired in 5 weeks? And I guess there's the thought, right, Jeff? There is the thought that, hey, man, there's been worse teams that have ripped off 5 straight wins. Maybe he rips off 5 straight wins. Maybe he gets this reset with this new life, with this bye week, and they rip off 5 straight wins, and we don't have to pay him $50 million to go away. We'll risk it. We'll risk the short-term embarrassment and the short-term rage for our fans to hope that maybe they put together some sort of winning streak, which seems almost impossible with the way they've looked the last 4 weeks.
Well, it's impossible. They won't go on a winning streak. They just told you they've quit. As you correctly pointed out in the Stanford game, the opponents they play moving forward are all better than Stanford.
Yeah.
I would also note that this is interesting to me because I think they're trying to get their ducks in a row. I think there's a chance that the athletics director is going to get fired too. I certainly think he just put himself in the crosshairs.
Yeah, but he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that without knowing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he surprised people with this move. It's not like Peter Collins was telling him, hey, man, I want him fired. And Michael Alford's like, no. That would seem incredible to me.
Well, I think that he's made some enemies, let's just put it that way, within the contingent of money people, coupled with, I think, a growing sense of confusion and frustration and despair from coaches at the university regarding his Pollyanna view of what NIL is and the fundraising of football and all sports. There's growing frustration. So I wonder if ultimately you're kind of trying to look to restructure how athletics works, if you're not looking big picture beyond just your head football coach, and whether or not that people need time to figure this out, what they're going to do moving forward. I think it's perhaps a restructuring of everything in athletics.
Yeah.
Corey, Jack, actually, let me go to you on this one, Jeff, first, because we're talking about Michael Alford. We had some reporting over on the website that he did not leave with the team back over to the East Coast. I don't know if that was maybe just so he could be in place to make some more phone calls, whether that's with the university, or is there any possibility that maybe they had somebody in mind, they reached out to somebody in mind, and they were rebuffed, and that's why we have a statement pretty much saying that they're going to have to stick with Mike through the remainder of the season?
I don't think so. I don't think that's where we're at this point. I think that, again, I'm going to go back to it. I think they're trying to get their ducks in a row. This is a huge buyout. They are saddled with that reality. I do think that, when things like this go down and you're talking about trying to fire a staff, fire a head coach, find a new head coach, and get a sense of how you're going to move forward, there's a lot of moving pieces. I think, first of all, he flew commercial to come back. I don't think they wanted him on the same plane as Mike Norvell before he ever went out there. I think they had kind of understood how that was going to work. That would have been a little uncomfortable. It's interesting to me. This speaks to me about bigger picture stuff. Like, you're not taking the rest of this season very seriously when you issue that statement. You just told your fans that the games don't matter the rest of the way. You can't with a straight face allow Mike Norvell back into that facility and then on those sidelines to be introduced against Wake Forest. Corey, you've brought this up a lot before. Like, imagine how that's going to sound in a half-empty stadium as a cascade of boos rain down upon the field. This whole thing is hideous and embarrassing, but it's not without reason. I think they do have to try to figure out big picture how they're going to implement the changes that they want to make.
There is some rationality to it. I mean, if you're the rationality being, okay, are they going to be any better if Tony White is the interim head coach? This season's already a wash anyway. There is, number one, there is, I think the biggest rationality, like you're saying, is, okay, fire him now, but how does that help you on December 3rd when you're trying to find a head coach? You know what I mean? Like, you're still in the market with all these other schools. It's not like you got to jump on anyone. I think the main point is, Jeff's right, is this is a huge financial burden and a huge financial conversation that probably needs more than a couple of days to figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, right? Like, who are you willing to go get? How much are you willing to spend for the next head coach? How much are you willing to spend on a roster? How much are you willing to spend on a roster to tell your new head coach that you're going to do? Like, all that stuff matters. And instead of giving yourself your own crazy short deadline, you now have at least given yourself some runway to figure out where you land this plane. That was a crazy metaphor where I went all over the place. I'm not sure if you were taking off on the runway or landing on it. But so there is some rationality to it. The irrational part is, like we were just talking about, it's going to be an ugly scene, man. It's going to be an ugly scene against Wake Forest. People are done with this guy after the Stanford game. And wouldn't it be nice, Jeff, if his team rallied up and beat Wake Forest 41-14? But the likelihood is his team is going to get beat 41-14. And then there's going to be more boos cascading down. And then you're going to go to Clemson and get your head kicked in. All of that is on the table, and all of that just becomes more and more embarrassing for him, which I don't really care about. He's going to get $50 million either way. But it becomes more embarrassing to the team, the players, and your fan base, which is ultimately the most important because they're the ones that are going to pay for your next head coach and pay for the buyout.
Yeah, look, it's already embarrassing. You just lost to a Stanford team that is dreadful, and they were largely playing with backups.
Yeah, it's the worst loss of his tenure other than Jacksonville State. It's the worst loss of his tenure.
That's a really bad loss too, though, you know?
Yeah, he's got a few of them.
A lot of these losses to choose from.
Yeah.
Like, which was your favorite 4-game losing streak?
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's got 4 of them.
Wasn't it Coach Speak? Somebody asked. Wasn't Justin Wilcox asked? How does this loss rank in your pantheon of losses?
Yeah. Where does this 4-game losing streak? Yeah.
Imitating art, boys.
Guys, I know it gets lost in the shuffle, but is this up there amongst your worst losses, Mike?
Yeah.
Where would you put this one?
It has to be.
We're losing track. I think if you're looking big picture about how you're going to change the organization and change the methodologies, like, there is an argument. We're at an inflection point with college football right now where you can have the discussion about how these departments should be run. Yeah. Like, there's only 2 or 3 maybe.
Hey, while you're saying that, I would encourage people. Ira just wrote a column on this very subject with the knowledge that Norvell was going to be retained. I would encourage people to go read that column on warchant.com right now, because he goes into this a great deal, how these are huge businesses that are still sometimes run as mom and pop shops, and they have to restructure how they think about college football.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to see. I do think that's correct. I think that you do have to think long and hard about how you want to move forward here. And I think because there are a lot of moving parts to this, that in a weird way, like, initially, we're all very upset, if you care at all about Florida State, to see the program in this situation and to not make a move to help expedite getting out of this situation as it's seen right now. Obviously, that leads to further consternation and sadness. And emotionally, I think people are charged in a way that they haven't been in a long time, which is saying something, because they've been pretty pissed off for a long time. But I do think that if you're trying to get it right, and there's a power struggle, say, behind the scenes as to who wants to do what and who is going to have a say in that matter, like, I'm not sure at this point, I could be wrong about this, but I'm not so sure there that Michael Alford has the support of a lot of very powerful people. And so now you get into the question of who's making this decision? Who's the guy that's hiring the guy? If you don't believe in your athletic director, or more importantly, if there are some powerful people who don't believe in this athletic director, then you wouldn't be as apt to fire Mike today, right? You got to get that figured out first.
But Corey, would you think by this sort of statement and what Jeff's saying here, they have to get it right, so you have to kind of get your ducks in a row and take some time. Does that mean the only way to get this quote unquote right is to either retain Mike and do your comprehensive reassessment, or figure out if you're going to completely reimagine your coaching structure, program structure, philosophy on building a team? I mean, it feels like we're eliminating the go after the big fish that we think could be close to a slam dunk of a hire, maybe a Franklin, maybe a Kiffin.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Kiffin was ever a possibility. I think Franklin could be, just because he would be at least a little bit cheaper because he's making 50 from Penn State and he's not currently employed. Like, it would be hard to convince Lane Kiffin to come to this. Why would he? In this day and age, I know Florida State has a lot of history and success, much more than Ole Miss has ever dreamed of. But in this day and age, with NIL and portal, you're all kind of on the same footing if you got the right money. And he's got the right money there. James Franklin doesn't have any footing right now. He doesn't have a job. So he would be much more inclined to listen to you. I don't know that changes. It's not like he was going to step in and coach at Clemson for you. So I don't know that maybe that changes, and I don't even think this was the question you asked me. I think the coaching candidates that you would be interested in are still going to be there in 6 weeks and 5 weeks. Again, the timing of it is like, yeah, you fire him now, you get a bye week with the interim coach, and then you get 5 games with the interim coach. Is there any thought that they really think that he might get to 8-4? Like, they might rip off 5 wins? Does that come into play at all, Jeff?
Real quick, Jeff, D-Tally on the screen. Shout out to the folks that are throwing in some tips there. But he does say, are we being timidly told that Mike is going to be back in 2026? And to Corey's point,
I don't think so. That's what's so confusing about it, is if you're willing to do it after the Florida game, no matter what happens, you should be willing to do it right now. Like, the reason I bring this up is because it's just going to be a gross situation for the next 6 weeks. What am I supposed to ask Norvell about game planning for Virginia Tech? It's like, man, hey, you know what, Mike? They have an interim coach. Your program should have an interim coach. What's this matchup going to be like? You know what I mean? Like, you've already lost to an interim coach. And it's going to be, there's not going to be any real positivity around this program. It's going to be ugly and I don't know. There's vitriolic for the next 6 weeks. And to what end? To what end? That's why I think there is still maybe a possibility, if somehow, miraculously, this team goes on a run and wins out, that you think about bringing them back and you save $10 million. The problem with that is, because saying $10 million as if next year when you fire him, it'll only be a $40 million buyout. The problem with that is, I think the people that come to these games, I know plenty of them, they're done. They're done with this head coach. They do not want to renew season tickets. They do not want to renew those packages, not at those prices. If this is their head coach, they're out. They're out on him. No matter what he does the next 5 games, they're not going to believe in him. And that's a reality, right, Jeff? Like, if he wins the next 5 games, whoop-de-doo. You lost to Stanford, man. Nobody can trust you ever again.
Yeah, no, he's done. I don't think
there's no way he's not done, right?
No, there's no way he's back next year. I don't believe. I'm with you on the whole.
What if they won 5 games though?
But they're not going to.
I'm saying, do you think?
Well, no, I'd still fire him. It's over.
I know you would, and you'd have fired him last year. I would have fired him Saturday night.
Yeah,
I'm saying we can say it's not going to happen. It ain't like it's a murderer's row. So I get it. They just lost to Stanford.
It's Corey.
But what I'm saying is I'm not saying I'm thinking it's going to happen. I'm saying, is this part of the thought process?
I don't believe so.
No way.
I don't.
Because what is your reassessment? What would you reassess, Jeff?
They would be 8. They would be 8-4.
They've tried everything. They've tried everything.
But my pushback to this is they would be 8-4. Look at it through the lens of them being 8-4.
But I know we don't. Assuming, but Corey, that's assuming they think he's going to do that. I don't. They don't think.
No,
that.
I don't think they think he's going to do that. I think they're giving him a chance to do that because they desperately don't want to. The way it reads to me is and a lot of people, I think, they desperately don't want to pay him $50 million not to coach. And
I'm certain they don't, but it's their stark reality is that they have to. He's left them no choice. I'm sure this is devastating for the people who invested in him. And there are some people who wrote big checks in order for this to happen. It's devastating for the athletic director who obviously signed him to the extension. I do know this for Florida State. There is offset language here. I mean, in that contract, we know there's offset language. They would not have to pay all of that, is my thought. But that, to me, this, again, speaks to a much bigger picture. They're trying to reassess their entire athletics department, their entire football program, and the way that they're going to structure it moving forward. I think they want to get their ducks in a row before they pull the trigger and start paying off that buyout. They want to know what they're going to do and who are the major players making the decisions when that time comes. I'm not –
do we know how much money they save by not firing him now, just for the next 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's not a lot. You're going to save somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $6 million
by letting him coach the rest of the season. Well, it's not nothing either.
It's not insignificant. Yeah.
And I would say the reason I would say that is that's also like maybe a coordinator or two's buyout. So that at least takes care of it. It doesn't. I mean, it's not nothing. If the season's a wash anyway, and you don't care that he gets booed mercilessly and gets asked questions about his future every 3 days, then saving $5 million isn't. I mean, you know what I mean? It's
to
not
the comment on the screen, Jeff. How do you sue a conference yet get buyout scared? Bear, I mean, rhetorical, but clever nonetheless. Touche.
I keep looking bigger picture. I think this is less about Mike, even though the immediacy of this is that Mike needs to be fired, and he does, and we all know that. I think Mike knew it. Just by looking on his face at the press conference after the game, I think Mike looked like he was fighting back tears. He knew he'd blown it.
He knew he looked like he was fighting back during the course of the game.
Yeah, I think he knew he was done. To me, this it's lost. He's not getting that team back. If any of those reports are true about guys making fun of him after the game, and we saw one player brush right past him, I mean, he's lost all credibility there. I think Mike's a good guy. This isn't a personal attack on Mike at all, but it's over here. It's just a matter to me. I think this is a bigger picture conversation. I think this is about the athletic department. I think it's about Michael Alford. And I think maybe last on the list, ironically, right now is the assumed to be fired Mike Norvell. He's going to be fired. They've got to get it figured out, though. What's the plan? Who are they going to talk to? Who gets to make that decision? And ultimately, I find this all very curious. It's upsetting in the moment, but big picture is where I'm going to go from here, because I wonder who's going to be making these decisions. I'm at this point, I'm not so sure Michael Alford is.
Yeah, but it wasn't just his decision. It's never just the AD's decision, right? Like it's always the people above him and the board of trustees and the people that have the money that make these decisions. What the message is, I think. Let's step away from the big picture and talk about micro a little bit. In the message it sends to your fans, we just posted a message about Florida State is not a serious football program. Right. That's what it feels like. Yeah. It feels. I mean, UAB fired their head. I know it's Trent Dilfer. He was making probably $40,000, but like all these other schools, Florida fired their coach after a win. So if you're not willing to fire your coach, it does make you look a little unserious. And I don't think they had to know, right, when they released that statement, that the pushback would be intense and immediate. My phone blew up immediately with people you guys have all met and know about how irate they are that Mike Norvell still has a job, and that they don't want to come to the last two remaining home games, and they don't want to renew season tickets next year. Now, that might all change if Nick Saban's the head coach, but all will be forgiven. But you know what I mean? Like, do you think they thought at all about the short term?
Well worth the delay, Corey, if they're just
they're just
trying to get Saban in line. I'll take a day's two of scorn to tire Nick Saban. Dave in the chat just kind of hinted at what I'm talking about. Are the boosters having cold feet because they don't trust Alfred to make the hire? I think so. Yeah. I believe that's happening. Yes. But in terms of the immediacy, Corey, you're right.
The message to your fans, I don't care if Michael Alford is the AD here next year. Nobody watching this does. They care who the head coach is today. I'm saying like you know what I mean. Like Michael Alford does not impact their daily lives like the head football coach.
Yeah, but you're not going to, Corey, with a decision that involves this kind of a buyout and a decision as to who you're bringing in the future of your athletic program, you're not going to let that immediate rage that you're talking about and referencing those people. I'm one of them. There are plenty of people like that. I know exactly who you're talking about. They're the people like my father.
Yeah.
Obviously, those people are incensed. They're embarrassed. They're frustrated. They're confused. They're angry. They're all the things. But in truth, you're really not letting those folks, and those people are the lifeblood of a program. I agree. They buy your season tickets. You care what they think, but ultimately when a decision is this big, you're really only talking about 10 to 15 people, maybe, that are involved in that kind of a decision. And they've got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And so that's what would explain the delay to me. It's that, like, look, on the surface, you and I both know they got to fire that guy an hour ago, yesterday, Saturday night. But in reality, if you're thinking about the big picture and the restructure and the money and who you're bringing in and whether or not the guy's in place to make that decision, you may need a little time.
But I guess the counter to that is, why didn't Florida or Penn State need all that time? Did they have their ducks in a row better? It's not like this came out of nowhere that you know.
And Florida's AD is on shaky ground too. Sorry to interrupt, Corey, but it's not like they have a great situation. Their president, I think, is an interim basis too, so they're in a lot of.
Yeah, the Bull Gators are making that decision. They're the ones in charge of that. Strickland's not going to have anything to do with Florida's next head coach, and I believe he's on shaky ground. You're correct. But back to Penn State's situation, I was told that Penn State wanted Franklin to be the belle of the ball on the market because of the offset language. They're not going to have to pay him near what that contract is once he gets hired by somebody else,
right.
and he will get hired by somebody else. So they wanted to go first to market. At this point, Florida State is in a precarious position. They're not Texas A&M. They don't have unlimited sums of money. So there is that factor. They could afford to do this. There's enough money there. They could do it. They got to get a loan from the endowment, and you got to find out whether or not they can get it. But that whole situation it's precarious, but it's very complicated. I think there's a lot more to this than just deciding, like, look, obviously we got to fire our coach. They do have to fire their coach. I do think that they want to get the big picture stuff right, though.
Yeah, I just think in the immediacy, right, Aslan, it's such a bad look to your fans that care desperately. They're the reasons the person that issued that release, the guy that's going to be fired in 6 weeks, they're all millionaires and set for life.
Yeah.
Because of this fan base. It insults them and their intelligence.
Yes.
To say that there's going to be a reassessment at the end of the year. We know. That's why I keep coming back to, like, there's no loss in the country that was worse than what Florida. I legitimately believe, other than maybe Alabama's to Florida State at the start of the season, that was the worst loss any Power 4 team has had in the country, considering the stakes. It's a horrible look. It's a horrible game, and frankly, it might
worse
be
than Penn State losing to UCLA.
I mean, but because nobody at that time thought Franklin's team was out of a job. Franklin was coaching for his life. Yeah. This guy is and has been, and he's done. Like they let him down. His team let him down. His coaches let him down. He let himself down. He's let all of y'all down, and it just seems odd to run it back and give him 5 more games, because I think we all know how it's going to end anyway, and it's going to be ugly in the process. And you know, I keep coming back to, man. If he somehow start with one, you got to start with one, Jeff. If you beat Wake and you get this thing rolling, but legitimately, like, I just wonder in the back of their minds if they're like, man, if he could just somehow get to 7 or 8 wins, maybe 9 if you get to a bowl, we don't have to pay this ridiculous buyout. The problem with that line of thinking is this guy isn't it. He has proven to you he ain't it. He does not need to be the head coach in 2026. We all know he's not going to be the head coach in 2026 unless he bursts some miracle out of his butthole. Nothing of like. Sorry, it's early in the morning, guys. I'm still trying to get my wits about me. There's no way his team is going to be good at win enough games this season. He is not a good football coach for this program anymore. It is done. To have him still be the face of this program for the next 6 weeks, as Jeff has said, a pretty important 6 weeks. is a bad. It's just it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know it does when you take a step back and try to get your ducks in a row. You could get your ducks in a row and know you're still firing Mike Norvell.
I just want to put this on the. I just want to admire this from Ecuador, man. Colorado State 80 has more balls than ours because his talk to text
should have been
the numbers 80 instead of the AD.
AD.
I think that's incredible. We've had a lot of things about Jimbo, and I don't want to bore you guys too much. And I know Jeff's got a show to do at 1:00, and he's got probably a lot of thoughts on his mind. But I don't know. Listen, I hate talking about Jimbo because I don't have a very. I'm very biased, obviously, but I don't think it would work out. But there's like the more this thing drags on, Jeff, there's more comments on the message boards here in the chat just about like how much worse could it be by bringing Jimbo back? I mean, do you think that's what is, I guess, more likely? Mike Norvell's the head coach of Florida State in 2026, or Jimbo Fisher is the head coach of Florida State in 2026?
That's Jimbo Fisher. That's the easy answer to that.
Yeah, that's definitely Jimbo Fisher, but it's not going to be Jimbo Fisher. Okay. And I don't think there's any way that happens, by the way. Right. I don't think that's a serious conversation.
Fair enough. Rich Too Bad throwing $20 in the jar, thinks that the culture died when Jimbo left. He was the last of the Bowden pedigree, only one that knows Florida State's winning culture. Man, you can be a winner somewhere else. Like Kirk Cignetti found out a way to win at James Madison. Like Indiana did not have a winning pedigree, a winning culture. He brought it. So I don't think we need to reach back into yesteryear to find it. But
here's what I would say to this when it comes to Jimbo, because yes, man, that's going to be a lot of talk for the next 6 weeks. He's also lives in Tallahassee. He also won a national championship and put together the best ever Florida State football team. He had a lot of good moments here. He was a failure at Texas A&M, a huge one that cost them a ton of money. You look at Texas A&M now without Jimbo Fisher compared to what they were with him. Again, just because a guy was good in 2014 and 13 does not mean he can coach in college football at a high level 11 years later. The game is completely different. Completely different. Not just the game itself on the field, everything around it is different. It's not the sport that he grew up in. And he clearly couldn't handle it well at Texas A&M. We all remember the press conference when he made fun of Nick Saban for saying that he had the audacity to spend $3 million on a recruiting class. I understand the appeal because of yesteryear and because he was so good. But when you look at it realistically, what he did at A&M, you don't get to then coach at Florida State. He got fired at A&M. His offense was awful. They went 6-6 or 5, and he got fired in the middle of the season, I think. Like, it just didn't work. So why go hire a failed coach? And the reason I say this is Florida State fans got to stop feeling sorry for themselves. You're Florida State. Georgia Tech is number 7 in the country. Vanderbilt is number 10. You don't have to go find a diamond out there somewhere in the great vast of this country. There also is not just one diamond out there that can coach this team to wins. Hell, Mike Norvell at Florida State had a 13-0 season. And we all know he ain't a great coach. So my point is, know what your value is. Jimbo Fisher does not hold the key that unlocks Florida State. There are plenty of good coaches all across the country that can hold that key. The guy now isn't it. I'm the only thing that intrigues me about Jimbo is that MFer knows what good football players look like. He'll get them on campus. Will they win with them? Ask the 17 team, because it's not a guarantee that they'll win with Jimbo Fisher. And ask anybody that played at Texas A&M for the last 7 years. He's not a slam dunk, and there's no guarantee that he'd be good. Also, frankly, when you get fired from your last job and you're an ultimate failure like he was at A&M, where he had like one good season, it was the COVID season, I don't know that you get the keys to Florida State again. Go win at Old Dominion.
No, I don't think you do. And there are plenty of people who can assess and evaluate high school players and recruit them.
It didn't burn all the bridges.
Right.
My man burned a ton of bridges.
Well, he's partly the reason we're in the predicament we're in.
Correct.
So that should always be noted. But he turned his back on the program. He tried to leave more than once, by the way. People forget that all the time. He was floating his name up for the LSU job before he ever got the Texas A&M job.
Well, and just the look of like crawling back to him, like he's the savior. He's the only one that can do this at Florida State. I hate that thought.
Listen, he's not. You just talked about it.
Yeah.
Mike Norvell won 19 games in a row.
Yeah.
If Florida State isn't snubbed, they might have won the national championship.
Yeah. Well, if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, I think that team is absolutely a national championship contender.
The point is that you can win.
Yes.
People said you couldn't win once Bobby left. Well, Jimbo did, and I thought it was very important for Florida State's cachet and program relevance that somebody other than Bobby, somebody other than an icon, won a national championship here. I think it was really important that Mike Norvell quickly put together a program that could win the ACC, and it did. Miami's never even won the ACC. The guy we're about to fire has. I mean, look, you can go through all of these things. You realize that this is a good place when it's operating at peak efficiency. It's not operating at peak efficiency currently. This is why it's a big picture conversation regarding the athletic director and the power players of this program. I think they're looking long term. We got to get this right. Yeah, we could satiate, the barbarians at the gate today by firing this guy who deserves to be fired, who I would have fired a year ago. Exactly. But right now, we got to have a bigger plan in place. And who's the guy that's making the next hire? Because if it's not this athletic director, you better figure that out real soon, like today, this week, this month. I mean, this is a bigger picture issue.
Yeah. And Jeff Cameron's going to dive into that at 1 p.m. with Tom Lang on the Jeff Cameron Show. You can see it right here on YouTube TV as well as 93.3 FM. You can listen to it on 93.3 FM.
Hey, Aslan, what's the interview schedule this week? Do we get Norvell
Tuesday?
Or tomorrow?
No, we're supposed to get coordinators tomorrow on Tuesday.
Okay, and then Norvell on Wednesday.
That's going to be kick-ass. You guys are going to have a blast.
Yeah. So
you know what? Do you remember that scene in Hoosiers when after Jimmy Chitwood comes to the courthouse or the church, wherever they're having the
meeting,
and then they start winning, and then there's that scene they cut to where I guess Dennis Hopper had been drunk, and Gene Hackman's like dunking his head in the water in the sink, and he's like, "Listen to me. After what Jimmy did
the other night,
it would take the Indiana National Guard to get me out of here. We're on fire. We're about to go on a run, and I want you there with me."
Yeah.
Norvell's going to get to do that after he beats Wake Forest and wins at Clemson. He's going to be like, "Hey, you remember what I thought I was gone, and then Michael Offord did that to me, and it would take the Florida National Guard to get me out of here. Now this fan base is behind me. Maybe this somehow unearths the next saga of the Mike Norvell
Corey,
story.
We could always cue up the DiCaprio speech. I ain't going anywhere.
Oh, yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah. Yeah, and the team's going to love it, right? They're like, yeah. Yeah, man, there's a lot of ways this could go. This maybe he has his second life, really a third life. He's going to coach differently now. It's going to be relaxed. Obviously, he probably knows he's getting fired anyway. So maybe he doesn't look like every play is the end of the world on the sideline, and he has a little more fun, and maybe they play better because of it.
We could get Renegade Mike. He comes out disheveled, unshaven.
Yeah.
Hasn't showered in 2 days, shirt's untucked.
Sunglasses, maybe shirtless.
Yeah, he can just – and he just starts saying crazy things.
Yeah.
Because he's pissed they didn't fire him and give him his money yet. So he just starts just saying wildly inappropriate stuff every time you guys get him. That'd be fun.
Is there any language in his contract that would null and void it? Like, what if he got
sure. Morals? Yeah, like moral perpetuity or whatever. Turpitude, I think.
Just saying.
No, for cause is what you're talking about, Corey. And I would think that I would be desperately finding those for cause.
I was going to say just plant some evidence on him of a murder. And then
I don't think you have to go to that extreme. Corey.
Okay.
We could just go with a little cocaine.
Oh, okay. I was going more big picture.
Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah, we don't need the Adelson people.
I was going to say maybe he was involved in the Adelson thing.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and plant a little cocaine.
Just sprinkle it.
Yeah.
Just
across his desk.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to come in. What is that?
Yeah. There's Norvell. There's Norvell today talking to the team.
It's a toughie, guys. It's toughie. Big picture, it's ugly. It's
Wake's in trouble. Wake's in trouble, everyone.
Big picture thoughts from Irish O'Fell, managing editor of Warchant.com, over at Warchant.com. Join us for only $1 for a week, and then you get a complimentary subscription to The Athletic. If you're a student, totally free for a whole year. Just email support@warchant.com from your FSU.edu email address, and we'll get you hooked up for a whole year subscription to Warchant.com. Again, Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock with he and Tom Lang breaking things down. Warchant.com, popping around the clock as always. Thanks to Nick Carlisle in the back for making this thing run smoothly. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. And we'll talk to coaches tomorrow. We'll have a podcast later on with Corey Clark and myself. And As always, covering the Noles like nobody else. Warchant.com. Gentlemen, thanks for your knowledge. Appreciate the both of y'all.
You're the
Be
best,
well.
Aslan.
Later, guys.